gentlemen, good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation. Today I'd like to take you to a special place, my land, Trentino, where sport is not just a passion but a true way of life. We can see a short video now. So we are now surrounded by natural beauty of Trentino. These images have given us a first glimpse of what the region has to offer. In competition, ski jumping competition and Nordic combined in next February, and then para cross country and para biathlon competition in March. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. As our Consul General mentioned, he is the CEO of Milano Cortina 2026, so the foundation of the project. Andrea.
Thank you, Mario. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to see you all. And first of all, I'd like to thank our host, the Consul General of Italy, Michele. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, for the support that you gave to the organization of this event. And here, it's a very emotional moment for us to be around the world trying to tell about our project, what we're doing. And it's not easy to summarize in just a few words the immense work that we've been doing in the previous years and that expects us for the next 312 days. And it's not that we're counting everything, but we are a fan of sports, and we want the best athletes to come. And when you have such incredible performance, it doesn't matter. We're fan of all the athletes, and we expect to try to recreate as much as possible the fantastic atmosphere we've seen in the world, and in this case, especially the athletes of the United States of America, to do fantastic performances in Milano, in Cortina, in all the locations. As was said before by our other great institutions that are already existing, a fantastic biathlon stadium, is because in those locations there's real passion for sport, for that specific sport, and there is a very important knowledge about organizing that event. When you have organized already 3, 5, 6 World Championship, you bring this heritage with you. So for us as organizing committee, we have to put all together, but we can source fantastic knowledge and experience in our territories. And I think this will give the added value to our games, to make sure that athletes from all over the world will come to Milano Cortina and find the best condition to the event of their life and try to win a medal if possible. And also we launch other important programs, and for example, we launch our volunteer program, and that is also another incredible success. We're looking for 18,000 volunteers. Volunteers, as you know, is one of the most important element and differentiation element of the games. They are the heart of the games, and they tell a lot about doing our games. So I will show you a short presentation of this, and then I'll be happy to be with you.
Io mi ricordo ancora oggi quando hanno deciso di dare le Olimpiadi a Milano Cortina 2026, cioè avevamo i brividi. Le Olimpiadi devono lasciare ai nostri figli i valori che sono gli stessi della vita.
L'evento olimpico a mio parere farà crescere tutti noi dal punto di vista umano.
Davvero una grande sfida che sarà un successo, soprattutto se dimostriamo che sostenibile si può fare e funziona.
Jean, welcome, thank you, here you are. President and Chair of the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee since 2023. He's a leading figure both in business and sports governance, graduate of Harvard and Stanford. He built a long career at Goldman Sachs, where he served as co-chair of global M&A and technology. Now you have a task ahead of you, which is to manage and to organize the Paralympic Committee, and we have two guests that will talk about that later here. So how do you see these games influencing the future? This is a new experiment of organizing an Olympic, the future Winter Olympics. In other words, jokes aside, is it realistic to think that maybe New York could be a co-host in the future?
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here and to celebrate Milano Cortina in advance. We have very, very high expectations for the success of Milano Cortina. And we're so used to calling it Milano Cortina, Americans may think it's one place. So maybe we're mistaken. The Olympic and Paralympic project is a big project. And it's the biggest project in the world between the Winter Games and the Summer Games. We have our own coming in 2028, right at your heels. And these are very, very difficult things to pull off and make them successful because they're so big. Therefore, you have to have the attitude of flexibility. You have to be practical. You have to use the resources that are available to you, reuse existing resources. And so I think Milano Cortina is brilliant. The idea of using what you have in Italy, the things that already work, where you have people who provide the same experiences in World Cup races, for example, and other types of activities. They can give their experience to your team, and your team can learn from it. I think that's a very practical approach. Having two cities who can put both their resources into it, 3 regions, I actually think it's a brilliant approach. I'm very, very open to it. As for New York, I'm not sure I can give much comment about New York at this point, but we have our sidelines in front of us, which is our games in 2028 Los Angeles, and then in 2034, which actually we call our Salt Lake City, Utah Games, because Salt Lake City is in the greater state of Utah. All of Utah will be participants in this game. So it's not dissimilar.
Olympic gold medalist in figure skating, who has also become a passionate advocate for the role of sports in society.
Olympics has been a huge part of my life, my whole life, since I was very young. And your question was, how the Olympics play a role?
Well, yes, you've worked toward gender equality, and we're trying to promote this. One of the statistics is that this, I think, is going to be the Winter Games with the largest participation of women vis-a-vis men. So that has been a great accomplishment. Not majority yet, but close. So.
I was part of a generation where women weren't really part of a lot of mainstream sports, and that's kind of how I got into figure skating, was because my mom said that I was very active. I came from a family of hockey players, and I said, I'm going to look at the sports where if Sarah does well, there are opportunities for her to compete in other competitions, to travel, and to maybe make some money. But the Olympics is really an opportunity that does highlight sports that aren't, I mean, in the US we call them the big four, the NFL, MLB, sports that are male dominated, and figure skating really, I mean, look, I went into it and I loved it, so I didn't really try many other sports. And it was really a jumping off point for me to meet a lot of people. Actually, my first international competition was in Italy. It was for a bunch of junior skaters, and so Italy held a special place in my heart, because it was the first place where I got to compete against athletes from France and Italy. It was France, Italy, and the US. So I've always loved to go back to Italy. Speaking about what Jean said about the Olympics and all these countries and sports coming together, the special thing, speaking as an athlete, going to the Olympics is that, last week I was at the World Championships for figure skating in Boston, and it's like, the figure skaters all know each other. We train circuit, and then, even decades later, we're still part of the world in some way. But at the Olympics, it's every sport. So it's athletes that you watch on TV, athletes you've been cheering for your whole life, athletes you never thought you'd see in person. And when people are asking me advice, like competing in the Olympics for the first time, what's your advice? I would, usually say, like, make sure to go to the cafeteria as much as you can, because that's where you meet all the other athletes. And it's like, the Olympic Village is really a place where everyone comes together, and it's the community of all these different nations, all the different sports, people who are passionate about the video set, these values that we're leaving to the next generation. That's really what the Olympics is about, and that's why it's so important that these are values that we want to pass on.
People will participate, 110,000 applications to be volunteer, there will be 18,000 spaces available, and most of these are very young people. That's reassuring in a way, but we live in a world where youngsters, we read this all the time, are sort of quote-unquote corrupted by social media. They live in a virtual world. So what would be your message to try to involve young people into the sport, into being competitive, into living the real life rather than the virtual one?
I think we saw this also in the last games, that a lot of these athletes are using social media to connect to one another, and also create communities. And I mean, a lot of these athletes are also now talking about mental health and well-being, and we're also seeing it reflected in their performances and in the message that they're sharing. Is like, you have to make sure that you're okay, and it's okay to talk about things that in my generation, you have an injury, you're going to have to push through, to the detriment of yourself for future competitions and for your own well-being. And I think like now, one of the positive things that social media is doing is it's amplifying messages from these athletes themselves to their fans and to the community of their exact words.
Gold medalist in ice sled hockey, and one of Team USA's standout athletes. I think you don't need much representation. So you have played for several prominent hockey clubs. You've been named Best Male Athlete with Disability in 2014 in ESPI, and so on and so forth. So how important is visibility and representation in Paralympic sport? Succeeding and again deliver a message of extraordinary resilience, optimism. Things can be done. Nothing can stop you. I look at your smile, just looking at your smile, I find it reassuring and inspiring.
Well, thank you for having us here. This has been really fun. I think that's a very important question, because at the heart of Paralympics, it's competition. We're athletes, we're there to compete like our fellow Olympians, but it's also a broader message too. We talk about inclusivity and bringing more accessibility to sport, and I think the organizing committee has really shown that with the improvements to the closing ceremony stadium for the Olympics, the opening ceremony stadium for the Paralympics, and real tangible example of how to use the games and leverage the fact that there's going to be a lot of eyes in there to actually bring about a long-term change. So I think that's great. I think just having a games in Italy will really show, I'm sure, many people with disabilities in Italy that, hey, they've maybe never seen the Paralympics before. This is something they can do. The whole motto of the Paralympics is spirit in motion, and having that kind of will to compete and that passion for it. And I think that'll just kind of change how many people view people with disabilities, and it's obviously going to be a great success.
Last remarks, and then we move to some Q&A. Andrea, as we said, this is a chance of doing well, of building a legacy, basically, with this new experiment. How did the idea come about to do Cortina in Milano? I know that at a certain point also Torino was in the editorial, so no, we cannot mix with others. Many are saying, well, what a mistake they made, and I was from Torino, so how did it come about? It might have been a daring concept, and now it may become a point of reference.
Well, when you start a candidature process, there's many elements, to decide to get together, who wants to be. Sometimes cities compete, and at one point they say, well, why should we compete? Why don't we work together? So then the idea of saying, okay, but why don't we do the opposite way? Normally it's the territories that adapt to the games, because you have to build things, you have to do, and then we do the other way around. We see what we have, and we adapt the games to what we have. Of course, we had to, some things were not existing. For example, a venue big enough for hockey did not exist anywhere, basically in the region. So it's been built in Milan, and will host not only Olympic hockey but also para hockey. So it will be an outstanding new venue. And then the infamous sliding center that was built, but it was built where there was a sliding center. So the tradition for the sliding sports was existing in Cortina. It's not out of the blue, and it was just abandoned there. But there were still people. There was a boat club. There was people fans of the sport, and now it's being finally decided to be built. So the idea was exactly what I said. Let's go where we have existing venue, existing tradition, existing, and I think it's a winning model. And we will follow us in France 4 years after Milano Cortina. We'll do exactly the same thing. And I think to bring the Winter Games back to Europe in the Alps, where I think they deserve to be, because that's beautiful mountains. That's where many of the winter sports were born. Only this model would be applicable. You could not go only in Cortina, or only in one community, or not only in one city. So I think that was a very, very looking forward idea, and of course it has some complications. We know that, but we've been very transparent with that, with all the family, the Olympic family, the Paralympic family. There are challenges, but I think in the end it's a good message for the future.
I think the important message is, if you want to host the Olympics, look first into your own communities, see what the communities can do, which venues, which operators, which communities of people who are sports people, and how they want to support this big project. And then you'll find the answer. So make it practical, make it fit the community you have. And it's possible to do this, even something as big as the Olympics. When you start with people who are enthusiastic about the project because they own the sports, they think of this as their home, then you can't fail.
Q&A, questions, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Eric Ayala here. Gina, if I could come to you, because I'm visiting from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the conversation about an Olympics in multiple cities, of course, will officially impact Oklahoma. Just wondering if you could talk about how you hope to learn from this Winter Olympics for what we will see in summer 28. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. You're from the right place. So as people know, perhaps Oklahoma City will be part of the Olympic program in 2028. So Oklahoma City will host all of the canoe slalom events as well as softball. You have 2 venues in Oklahoma City which are already built, already used for those purposes. They're world-class venues. People from all over the world come to compete in those 2 venues. So we're very happy to have those as part of what is called LA 28. We should call it LA OKC 2028. But we're very appreciative of the partnership with Oklahoma.
Hi, I had the pleasure of being in Torino during 2006, and I just wondered, every evening there would be sort of a Medals Plaza event, so I imagine that in this case you'll have it all over in different venues in Trentino and in Milano and wherever it may be. Will you also plan events at Medals Plaza, concerts, big spectacles? Are there any comments that you could make about that?
This is a very good question for who has remembrances from Torino. I was there also, and in fact, it was decided that there will not be Medals Plaza at these games. And this for not only for the great distances, it's impossible to have one place, but also because Medals Plaza is something that is a lot of people love, but the athletes are not always so happy about. And even in Torino, some athletes had to come from the mountains and do the medal ceremony, then go back to the months that were not, I mean, they were happy with the celebration, but then not happy with the logistics. And then there are sports, like for example, figure skating, that they give the medals on the fiddle plate in any case. So the fact of building a medal plaza, the risk of awarding just a couple of medals will not make sense. Nonetheless, we are planning to do some fun zones in every single location. And in that case, the villages will be extremely close to this fun zone. Closer than in any other circumstances, because there are villages we have 6 villages. so it's quite spread also. But the villages are extremely close to the center of these mountain villages, and in the case of Milan, very close to the center. So the idea is to create fun zones to entertain the crowds, and also find a way, and we of course learned a little bit from Paris, the way they involve the athletes, doing that in each different location. So that's the idea, we're working on it, and I think it's a good way to create a contact between the athletes and the fans.
The logistical challenges in making sure that hospitality for all the people traveling to Italy is world class, and just logistics of getting fans to and from different events in different cities.
Okay, the logistics is, as I said before, it is complex, and we have no problem saying that. And but the idea, because we want this game to be sustainable, so basically we divided our venues in clusters, and you can move from cluster to cluster only with public transportation. And then you will find within the cluster what you normally find in the Olympic world. This is talking about all the Olympic family, the spectators, and the fans. So we encourage the use of public transportation. Of course, we close deals with the national railway, with local railways, and to make sure that this is facilitated, and then you will be in the cluster, and then you will go back to the original way. Of course, we know also that accommodation in the mountain villages is because they are small villages, so it's relatively limited. So it needs to be planned well in advance for fans, spectators. We have a fantastic hospitality program, so you can not only buy the ticket, but you can buy hospitality packages to make sure that you have this arrangement. And then there's a great opportunity that was mentioned before. You know, in Milan, for example, you can go to a figure skating event in the evening. Next day, take a train, go to visit Firenze, and then come back and see another figure skating event with high-speed train. So this is a great opportunity for many fans to live a different experience rather than just a sport experience. So that's what we are encouraging.
The significance of San Siro being the site of the opening ceremonies, for the broader audience, can you explain why San Siro, that stadium, was such an important, significant place for the city of Milan and the country of Italy?
Well, that decision was made since the very beginning, so it's not something that was invented afterward by the organizing committee. Of course, when we started the project, we thought ceremonies will happen in stadiums. Then Paris did something completely different, but that was the original idea. But we still think that the stadium is a good setting for a ceremony. We love the ceremony in Paris, but I think it lacked some of the enclosed atmosphere, also for the athletes to feel the crowd and the public. But anyway, so we decided not to change our plans. So San Siro is an iconic place. It's a well-known stadium all over the world. It's big, so it will allow a lot of people to participate in this event. And as you may know, there are changes happening. So San Siro will probably not host anything anymore after the games, or very few, because there will be a new project. But so I think it will be fantastic also as a legacy to know that what will remain of San Siro was also an Olympic stadium. So I think it's very important. But we're also trying to find a way, and this is also an important message, and will be one of the innovations that we'll bring, to involve the athletes that are staying in the cluster. So we will do a stadium-based ceremony as traditional, but we will have some openings in remote location to make sure that all the athletes can participate.
We have a final video that we will show you, that we hope will leave you with wonderful 3D images of what will be.
We are time. The weight. The missing meters. The seconds that matter. We are emotion. Pure energy. The embrace at the end of a journey. The tears of victory. We are passion, enthusiasm and drive. Human courage before the challenge. We are the strength beyond the obstacle. The ascent and the descent. The highest peak. We are the lightness of a child. our hearts, beating as one. We are timeless beauty, the beauty of history and invention, of creative talent and the future. We are the beauty of the Italian spirit, vibrant and dynamic. Milano Cortina 2026.
Wonderful. I have promised inspiring dream images. We had them, and we come to a close. Please join me in another round of applause for all of our guests here.
Tappa di presentazione a New York, ma anche con una notizia, almeno qui in America si pensava ancora che Cortina con il bob non fosse pronta, invece ci sono buone notizie.
Assolutamente sì, la settimana scorsa ci sono state le discese di preomologazione che sono state molto positive, c'è un comunicato delle federazioni internazionali che si dicono estremamente soddisfatti, adesso non resta che concludere i lavori, però questa era una di quelle pietre miliari a cui non si poteva fare a meno.
Cosa avete capito che gli americani si aspettano di più dall'organizzazione italiana?
Beh, allora, questo è difficile spiegarlo, noi siamo molto contenti perché stiamo vedendo grande risposta da parte del pubblico americano nell'acquisto dei biglietti, veniamo da 2 giorni a Boston dove abbiamo assistito ai campionati del mondo di pattinaggio, un grande successo per gli atleti americani, per cui noi ci aspettiamo che tutti i fan poi vengano da noi e noi cercheremo di offrire il meglio che il nostro paese può dare, non solo con delle splendide venue ma anche con la nostra ospitalità, il nostro gusto di vivere, e credo che avranno un'esperienza veramente importante.
Sia a Milano che a Cortina, cosa consiglia?
Beh, è meglio che faccia la prima settimana a Milano e la seconda a Cortina, o viceversa, anzi meglio, per cui la seconda settimana c'è il figure skating, nella prima c'è l'alpino femminile a Cortina, per cui grandi atleti americani nel figure skating e la Von e la Schifrin a Cortina, cosa si può avere di meglio?
Questo International Roadshow che la Fondazione Milano Cortina 2026 ha voluto organizzare a New York ha la finalità di promuovere l'organizzazione dei Giochi Olimpici e Paralimpici del 26 da questa parte dell'Atlantico, e non è casuale che l'unica tappa americana sia a New York, ovviamente. C'è anche un immaginario legame non solo con i Giochi Olimpici di Los Angeles 26, ma i futuri Giochi Olimpici invernali che si terranno tra Utah e Oklahoma. Ed è interessante che il modello Milano-Cortina di mettere insieme diverse città, diverse regioni in realtà, come faremo noi in Italia nel 26, sarà de facto riprodotto dagli americani alcuni anni dopo. Quindi avere così tanti media americani, ma anche agenzie turistiche e altri soggetti, e ascoltare il chair, il presidente del Comitato Olimpico e Paralimpico americano, esaltare il modello italiano, per noi è sicuramente fonte di soddisfazione.
What is the best that you expect?
Based on what I'm hearing today and being to an Olympics before, I think it's going to be very exciting, great fans, great venues, great athletes, and great competition.
Do you think the American team maybe will find hospitality too good than them to compete well?
Italy is known for good hospitality, but these athletes have experience in competing in a lot of different environments, so I guess we'll see.